My name's Ken Jacobson. I'm Director of Educational Programs and Strategic Partnerships at IDA. It's great to see you tonight. Just to tell you a little bit about how this came about, back in the fall, in October in Los Angeles, IDA presented the Getting Real Documentary Film Conference, which was a convening of doc filmmakers and people from the industry to talk about the critical issues facing the documentary community. Well, at least one critical issue got left on the editing room table, cutting room table, and thanks to the passion and commitment of Thom Powers, that is at least in part being rectified tonight and tomorrow. So without further ado, Thom Powers.
Thank you. Change microphones here. Over the years, I've attended some archivists conferences, including the EMEA conference that takes place every year, very inconveniently at the same time as Doc NYC in November. But EMEA is the Association of Moving Image Archivists, and I've always been supremely impressed by the conversations that take place there, and the interesting work being done there. But I always felt something lacking was more cross communication between archivists and filmmakers, and particularly documentary filmmakers, is the genre that I most look after. So it's been on my mind for many years to try to do something to bridge that divide. And when Ken and I began talking about trying to do something in New York City, because IDA really wanted to do something here, I suggested this, and it was thanks to their support that we were able to make it happen. So this is the first of its kind. There are certainly lots of other things of its kind like this that cater to different groups. I'd encourage you to look out for the Orphan Film Symposium that happens every 2 years. In fact, as soon as I started organizing this, and picked the dates for it, I discovered that NYU's program of moving image archivists, they have a graduate program run by Dan Strebel, who runs the Orphan Film Symposium, and their graduate students, in the case of bad timing, are giving their theses this week. But you may be able to supplement your experience here by running over across the park and catching some of those student theses, which are given for free. My point is that there's a lot of activity and interest happening around archives and saving our history of film, but there's not enough, and I acutely feel that that one place where there needs to be more awareness and education is among filmmakers, because as I've said in the lead up to this, filmmakers really are their own archivists, and especially documentary filmmakers who are far less likely than, say, a Hollywood filmmaker to have the support of a studio or another organization that might be looking after their archives. So that is what tonight's conversation and the conversations that we're going to have tomorrow are looking at. Another thing that I think is distinguishing this gathering from some other archival gatherings is that I really want to pay attention to not only the physical preservation of materials, which is a difficult enough task and an important task. And there's a whole range of things to think about, from film to video and all its different formats to digital archiving of today. But preserving it, preserving a master in a vault, to me is only one part of the issue. Second issue are some of the legal hurdles that get thrown up between having the existence of a film and that film reaching its audience. So we're going to fold in some of that legal conversation tonight and tomorrow. And then the third part is making sure that film is accessible to an audience. It's one thing for a master to be stored in a vault, but I want these films to be available on all platforms. I've last couple of years I've been curating this digital streaming platform, Sundance Now Doc Club, and it's it's kind of heightened my awareness of what films are available to license and put out in the world, and what films aren't. And in recent months, we put up Show on .club, and it was kind of staggering to me that Show wasn't available on a digital platform before that, or the Drew Associates collection, full of great classic 1960s documentaries. So that is that's the kind of three prongs that we're going to be talking about tonight and all day tomorrow. So I hope you can join as much of it as you can. What I'd like to do now is bring up our distinguished group of panelists, and I will kind of introduce them once they're here on stage. But please welcome D.A. Pennebaker, Barbara Kopple, Michael Donaldson, and Sandra Schulberg. Come on down. So, we've got a collection of people here that cover many different aspects of this. Barbara Kopple and D.A. Pennebaker are here because they represent two of the most important legacies of documentary filmmaking that I can think of. And I should say, when we're talking about D.A. Pennebaker, we're also talking about his partner, Chris Hedges, who's ill tonight. It's telling in a way about the I think compartmentalization of sometimes what happens around filmmaking and preservation issues. Is I hope I won't embarrass Barbara to say that when I asked her to be here, she said, "Thom, I'd do anything for you, but I don't know what to say about preservation. I've had one of my films preserved, and I don't really know that much about it." And to me, that is an important part of this conversation because it's indicative of something that someone who's made so many important films, and thankfully, a few of them are available and we can get them. One we're going to talk about a little bit tonight, Harlan County, USA, had been properly preserved. There's a whole bunch of others in that library that I'd like to draw you out at some point and talk about what are the hurdles that prevent them from being easily accessible. I talked about legal snafus being a key issue, and we have Michael Donaldson from the law firm Donaldson and Califf. If you are a close reader of documentary credits, you see those names a lot. I think it's fair to say they're considered the leaders around documentary fair use issues in this country. And Michael's normally based in Los Angeles, and we happen to be very lucky that he was out here on some other business and could join us tonight. And at the end of this row is Sandra Schulberg, who has worn many hats over the years, literally and figuratively. Most recently, she has spearheaded this project called Indie Collect that she's going to be talking more about tonight. But Barbara, let me start with you, and maybe I can just, ask you, why you felt a little bit uncomfortable talking about film preservation when you've got a huge body of work that deserves to be preserved.
Well, it's not so much that I felt uncomfortable about it as I thought that there might be people who would really know so much about it and really be able to help filmmakers like Sandra and other people understand it, understand the things you have to look for and what you have to do. And I felt like I wanted to talk about Harlan County and the people who helped and the stages we went through, and why I feel that it's so urgently important, which I'm looking forward to doing.
But before we watch this clip from Harlan County that got preserved, maybe you can tell us about what was the process that enabled Harlan County to go through a preservation, and what was the need for preservation on it?
Okay, I'll do my best. First, before I even start, I just want to thank you and Rafaela for putting this panel together and putting tomorrow's panels together, and it just always seems that you guys have your finger on the pulse of what is so necessary and what is so important, and everything that you have done for this film community with your love of documentaries and the festivals, and really
now you know why I invited Barbara. Thank you.
No, but from the bottom of my heart, I mean, you and Raphael are just true fighters and really care about the work, and I really think that you should be applauded for it. Okay, Harlan County. Harlan County was preserved in 2004. We applied for a grant from the Women's Film Preservation Fund, which is also part of New York Women in Film and Television. The Women's Preservation Fund is such an incredible organization.
We have some people from, raise your hand, ladies from the Women's Film Preservation Fund.
Right. And they have, I think, preserved perhaps over 100 films. And one of the things that is most important to them is really allowing people to see women's roles in making movies. I mean, some of the documentaries that have been preserved are Julia Reichert and Jim Klein, Growing Up Female, Joe and Maxie, Maxie Cohn's film, The Wobblies, Deborah Schaefer's film, Metroliner, Vicky Hochberg's film. I mean, the list just goes on, and it's women who played some kind of a big role in a film is really what they're after. And also the Academy Archive Fund played a role in our film. But someone who played the greatest role of all was Susan Lazarus, who's a post-production supervisor who's here. Could she stand up, please?
Thank you.
And Susan should be on this panel because she took us through every single step. She was always with us.
Now, to clarify, Susan worked on the preservation of the film or on the film originally?
The preservation of the film, sorry. Because that's what I thought we were talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So she took us through all the different steps. She was never not with us. And it was David Becker and myself. And, of course, Duart Film Labs with all of their technicians, and Joe Mungie, and even Irwin Young himself. And we also, Lee Dichter mixed the film. And he went back and he did an even better mix of the film. So we took our 16 millimeter negative, we blew it up to 35. We had to readjust a lot of the shots.
Had that never happened before, and when the film came out in 1976? Had it ever been blown up to 35?
It was 16. And then we took all the film elements and made a digital master that went to Criterion Collection, who were distributing it. There was a huge opening for the film at Lincoln Center, and it just looked beautiful and sounded beautiful, like I've never heard it before. It was so changed. The prints were terrible. They were falling apart, and I think that if we weren't able to do that, Harlan County would have faded from our lives, our history, and our memory.
I mean, I think that's striking right there. This is an Academy Award-winning film, and yet it was on the verge of not being taken care of.
Exactly. And can I talk a little bit about why I think tonight is so important?
Please do.
Okay.
Then we'll watch a clip from Harlan County.
Okay. All right. So tonight, for me, on a very personal and emotional level, is so important because all of us as filmmakers, in a sense, are bound together by telling stories and about having real concerns about social issues. And also understanding that the power of documentary can change lives, can enlighten us, can enrage us, can make us laugh and make us cry. And most of our films are not about celebrities. I mean, some of them are, but many of them aren't. They're about working people, everyday people, people who have put their life on the line to document something, first responders, activists. It's a whole history of what film is all about. And to see those stories that I think matter so much go away is very difficult. We're a very supportive group. Documentarians, you know, talk to each other about the new technologies. They talk to each other about cameras that change every 3 months and formats, and we go to each other's editing rooms and we look at films, rough cuts of people's films or fine cuts of people's films, wanting everybody to succeed. So this is important to me because this history should be kept, and particularly kept for the other generations that are coming up who want to be storytellers, who want to have a sense of context, and also for all of us so that we have these memories and we have all of this at our fingertips so that we can watch it. And so I feel very, very passionate about it.
Mic drop. Okay. We've got a clip from Harlan County here. And this clip we're not showing on 35 millimeter film. We would love to, but in the constraints that we have in this kind of format, we're going to show you a clip that looks pretty darn good for not being 35 millimeter. Is there anything you want to? Do you know what clip we're going to show, or do you want to set it up at all, or it speaks for itself, right?
It speaks for itself.
Okay, it's just 2 or 3 minutes long. We'll watch this, douse the lights, and watch Harlan County, USA.
Come on. It's loaded? Yeah. You shouldn't carry it with you like that.
Oh, it's got safety. And if it did, it wouldn't shoot nothing. Yeah, I might lose that one anyway. As long as I got enough.
I want you to meet the needle, Lord.
Oh, tell them I started out with a switch on that picket line, but I'm ended up now carrying a gun. I mean, all the time, too. Hell, you have to, you know, especially since what's happening up there at Highsnap. And knowing them and seeing the machine guns now. It's time to, well, you'd be crazy not to carry a gun now. Yeah. Well, all right. Are y'all going to be back at 6?
All right, man, let's break it up now. Further residents, these people live. You know that nigger?
That nigger is a better man than you'll ever be. He's a better man than you'll ever be. 3 or 4 damn old gun thugs get on him and start kicking a woman and hitting a woman, and then another one come over and start beating a man and getting 4 or 5 of them on him, and then see a Basil Collins holding a gun and calling a union man that believes in these union men, saying, "I want you to get that nigger. You hear that nigger? Get that nigger." I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. And it's time for us to stand together and get just as violent as they are.
I agree. Right.
They're violent, so by God, you fight fire with fire.
It seemed like they were pretty well organized to me this morning. And we're going to have to get a little tighter organized. We're going to get together, the women are going to get together and be responsible for 10 women each, or 10 people up there each at 4 o'clock.
If you women going to bring 10 each, then the men ought to be able to say, well, we'll bring 5, or we'll bring 10, or we'll bring 15. And that would be working together.
You're going to have to get some more black people out, too, because you look odd up there.
I am odd.
They want us to sit by and watch them shoot and not us shoot back. And the police is not going to do nothing about it, do they? They're for that.
We know that. Just fight back. Just attack hell out of them. And not run. Let your conscience be your guide. I never run. I had one. One's all I could handle. But I got him. He didn't come no farther. And if there's enough of us up there and we can get one, if each one of us can get one, hell, we can do it.
Men, women, and children, all. It's time to stand up and be counted. Don't you going to be thrown back for 500 years.
And just for context here, that voice that's screaming, "Don't shoot," is that the director's voice?
Yeah, it's a familiar voice. It's mine.
Barbara, I'm going to go to Penny in just a moment, but I want to ask you, I asked Penny and Chris to come up with a list of films in their library that they would like to see some kind of preservation attention given to, and I asked them for a list of 10, and they couldn't really stop at 10, and even the list of 14 that they gave me has more to it than that. I wonder, when you think about your library of films, what are the things that you think of as, oh, I wish if I had, unlimited resources or even a small amount of resources, what I'd like to spend them on?
Well, I think definitely American Dream. And
That's the one about the factory out in...
Yeah, the meatpacking factory. And that
American Dream is also released on a Criterion disc. Am I right?
Well, not anymore.
Okay.
No.
Between
Right.
releases.
Right. Okay.
And like when it comes to American Dream, again, there's an Academy Award-winning film. Like, really, that film needs attention. Can you talk about what kind of attention it needs?
Total attention. We didn't have the 16 millimeter negative. It was distributed with Miramax right away after it was finished. And then Miramax, the Weinstein brothers sold it. And then we called Miramax asking if we could, get our 16 millimeter negative if they had it, just borrow it, or any digital master that they might have so that we could do something with it. And we weren't able to. So we tried.
Is that because there's just a question mark over whether it even exists or not, or?
No, I'm pretty sure that it exists because they're the distributors of it. They just, blocked us, and we wrote them pleading letters. We called them. We said, we'll go over and we'll look, and can we please have it? We'll give you money, and then you can give us the money back when we return it. And it just was not possible. I don't know, Susan, do you remember some of this? Because you were involved in this as well.
Sure.
Issues you may want to talk about tomorrow, because Barbara only had rights to show it publicly, and Miramax had rights to it, and the Academy Film Archive, we tried to get them involved as well, and they wouldn't let us go visit. They wouldn't ship the negative to the Academy to be inspected. It was in Canada. I don't know where it is now. The lab
Probably
closed,
the same place.
but Deluxe closed, so
Yeah.
time to find out again where they're shipping the negative. And maybe try again. But we tried for about a year to get access to, they had made 35 millimeter materials, and we couldn't get them.
This kind of points up a larger problem.
Thank you.
That, on the one side, there are filmmakers who are in charge of their own archives and have those kinds of struggles. On the other side of the equation is filmmakers who have their materials in some kind of institution that that they're sometimes blocked from.
Right, but I mean, the two films of my life that I own are Harlan County and American Dream. They're my copyright, but I had to sign a pretty lengthy contract with how long Miramax could have the film under the Weinsteins. So I
Maybe you can huddle with Michael Donaldson afterwards.
Right, okay.
Pennebaker, let's talk about your collections. You wrote this long list for me of films, which I encourage you to go to docnyc.net. Is posted as a blog post, that list of films. And I was struck because you put at the top of that list a film that I sort of embarrassed to say by you and Chris Hedges that I had never heard of before, a film called Dance Black America. And Dance Black America is an interesting one for us to be talking about because I think it has all three of the problems that I spoke about at the beginning, issues of needing technical attention, legal issues that would need solving, and some distribution issues. Can you tell us, first of all, like what Dance of Black America is?
It was a film we made for the New York State, the SUNY, on the thing that was done at BAM, which was probably the first gathering of almost all of the black dancers, Alvin Ailey down to Blondell Cummings, who had...
This is in 1983, was when the film came out.
And the whole thing was put together as a single evening's performance, and we were asked to shoot it, and we shot it the way we did Monterey. That is, we had 3 or 4 people on the edge of the stage, and I got on the stage when I could get on there. Usually they'd throw me off when I wasn't expecting it, but that was kind of the way we shot performances, so that there was a camera watching everything in real time. And it was, it was kind of a marvelous collection of dancing going back to, they had Snake Hips, who was in from the 20s. And the thing, I remember it had what has probably become my favorite dance of all dances, which is Fantassa. And Alvin had told me, I worked on a panel with Alvin, so I got to know him. This is before he retired totally from anything. He went into total hiding. But he said this was maybe everybody in the country, wherever he went, this was their favorite dance. But he couldn't do it in New York because everybody in New York thought it was too foolish or whatever. Anyway, when I remember seeing that, and I've never forgotten it. It's just that we, and when we filmed that, we filmed it, of course, at the performance. We set up a special performance and did it so that it was a really specially shot performance, which Chris directed. And this film, I think the music is worn out by now, isn't it, Fraser? Right? Because when you buy music for these films, documentary, usually you're given 7 years or whatever to make your money back or die, and so that I'm not sure. Probably we did make a blow up of this because didn't make a 35. Okay, there you go.
So this was a film that was originally shot on 60 millimeter.
60 millimeter negative.
It was turned into a TV program for great performances on public television.
Yes. But they did show it only in 16. I thought, well, there you are. I don't see you forget all these neurons up here are scattered a little bit, so I'm not too sure what's going on. But the fact is that that's probably one of the best monuments to where dance was, and not just the black community, but in America in 1960s, that exists, and that it should disappear would be really, I think, Chris and I both felt that was something that should be somehow found a way to preserve. And and like all documentaries, the film, of course, is the queen of the hive. I mean, that's what you're aiming at, and that's what you get out, and that's what you're judged by. But the fact is, for every foot in the film, there's 20 not in the film.
20 feet of footage that you're out, the outtakes for the film.
Of stuff, and it's not, they're not like outtakes in the sense that it was a bad shot or something. It's just you only have time for so much. You're going to make a night. I think this was for great performances, so I think we had 90 minutes or whatever, and then everything else has to just go by the board, and some of it is every bit as interesting as what was in.
And in your case, you have all these 16 millimeter.
We've always saved every frame. I was compulsive about it. I never let a frame slip out of the house unattended. And that was a very important thing that and I didn't know why. And in fact, we made a deal with a place called Iron Mountain, which was a huge mountain in upstate New York that was hollowed out because it was full of salt, which they could throw on the highway to ruin all the cars. And when they got all the salt out of it, the remaining temperature and humidity was to everybody's surprise, Eastman Kodak's suggestion for how you should keep film. So the Museum of Modern Art was going to have an archive there, and they decided not to at the last minute. So I was offered and took their the place that they were going to, and subsequently every foot of film that we have saved and own, and films that I when I made that list, I've since thought of hundreds of films that I'd forgotten about now, but all those films we set up there and put into our made a kind of a my children did this because they knew about computers then and I didn't. So it was all lodged in the computer and stored so we can find boxes with certain things in them. And Iron Mountain is not an inexpensive place to lodge your film, believe me.
You pay a storage fee every year.
You pay a storage fee, and it's not insignificant. But at the same time, if you want something, you call them up and you can get it the next morning because you know what box it's in, and I know the guy that handles it all. And it's kind of an amazing place. If you ever go there, it's like a James Bond set. And outside there's a little glass thing. I think a guy with a gun sits out there protecting the doorway to it. And it's really, you drive through two old roads, rutted roads, so you can hardly find where you are. And suddenly you're in this huge, monstrous palace of stored film.
So in Dance Black America, one thing that's striking to me about it is that not only do you have these dance legends like Alvin Ailey and Garth Fagan, but this being 1983, they also brought in break dancers to kind of represent the time. And the clip that we've got selected is some double Dutch jump rope dancers, a group called the Jazzy Jumpers.
The Jazzy Jumpers from Long Island. They were great. They were wonderful, and they they were teenagers, and one of them we found out later was thought to be pregnant, but they hadn't found out yet.
So maybe we'll watch the clip,
and
then we can spot which one is pregnant. So if you're ready, you can lower the lights and.
And one to keep your feet up.
Yeah.
You want to tell us which one was pregnant?
No, I'm not at liberty to tell you that.
And you can't be sure.
She's a grandmother by now.
This film topped your list, as you said. It was a long list. One film that I want to just ask you about randomly, because this fall, many of you know, we did an 8-film retrospective of D.A. Pennebaker and Chris Hedges at our Stranger Than Fiction series, and so there was some time that I spent trying to pick through titles that I might like to show, and one of the titles that had drawn my attention, because I've seen it in a bad video copy, is a series called The Energy Wars, which was a 5-part series for PBS, shot during the Carter administration, where you have all these young politicians like Al Gore and John Kerry trying to solve America's energy crisis and pass legislation. And if that film feels so contemporary today, including in the names of the politicians who are still working on this issue. And we had one conversation about, maybe we put Energy Wars in, and then Chris Hedges just called me up and said, you know what, I just looked at the copy we have. I can't show that in public. For people who have never seen that project, I mean, can you talk about that as an example of a project that you spent a couple of years on, probably?
Well, I had some friends in Washington that kept saying you ought to make a film about politics, because it's such an umbrella shop, that you have to, as a good politician gives out umbrellas, and he gives them out for rainy days, but on sunny days nobody cares. Anyway, we went down and talked to a couple of people, and we went to someone who was really a Republican, but was involved in a Democratic government there, and he said the most important thing that's going to happen is the energy, the problem with oil. Or gas, but gas, which comes out of the oil fields. But that natural gas is used all over the country, especially in the north, to heat. And there's a big battle of whether they're going to be able to make it an interstate or an intrastate arrangement. And there's a lot of money involved. And all these oil people are all gathered around trying to make sure that the laws that happen benefit them. So we went down and we sorted ourselves out as if we were filming two armies. And we had one group, which was Chris and I mostly, doing with the Democrats. And then we had another group with the Republicans. And we had still another group, which was Joel and Jeff Kreines, who were two friends, and we sent them out into Texas, where it's a whole different kind of politics, and we managed to not be seen talking to each other. We thought that secrecy was important in this, and we talked at night, and the thing went on for like a year. We're filming it, and in the end, I think it was a 5.5-hour program.
Well, it's striking me when I think about it. It's all the recent talk about serialized documentary. You were making serialized documentary,
it was the first. Well, what is this? These programs that they have now, where they bring in people and act out stuff, and there's no
reality
scripts.
TV.
Yeah. It was reality TV.
Yeah.
And but there were some fantastic people in it, and over the. Well, one of the things I remember with a certain amount of unhappiness is that we were in a big hurry to get it on time, and
you had a broadcast deadline that you had to meet,
and we had to mix each thing was an hour and a half long, I think, and there were 3 of them and 1/2, whatever it was. And in order to mix them, in those days, later they had this thing called the rock and roll mix. So if you made a mistake, they stopped and went back and did the part that you made. Here we couldn't. We had to do the whole hour and a half in one take, and you couldn't make a mistake. And we couldn't afford a narrator, so I was the narrator. And Chris had an uncle who worked for Fox, I think, who said, "You should have gotten another narrator." Which, of course, but I probably should have. But it was a sort of a combination of a homemade movie, which is what I knew how to make. I mean, that's all I'd ever really made, and a look at a historic moment, because it was they had the longest of those things in Congress where you stand up and read the Bible for
filibuster. Yeah.
It was the longest series of filibusters that's ever taken place, and I think that the problem, Carter's problem of getting some kind of law involved with energy, it was probably the hardest piece of legislation that's ever gone through the houses. And we were there watching, and everybody was in a kind of state of euphoria about it, as if they were really doing something historic, when what they were doing was making a lot of people cold in the winter because they weren't getting their gas. And so it was a complicated issue, and I think that what we filmed was not the usual way that political issues are filmed. That is, we didn't say, look, they're doing this wrong, or this guy's telling this guy. We had no references. We didn't know enough about anything to make references. So all we did was to watch, and it was like watching a pond full of gophers. And you get fascinated by them, and you get to know them and love them, but in fact, you don't learn anything about gopher land, particularly, and we didn't learn much about politics, but we saw that year was something we will never forget. And again, it's history and should not disappear. It just, because that history will never be replicated.
So again, on docnyc.net, I've got that list of Pennebaker and Hedges' top 10. That's actually 14. Well, let me bring in some of our other panelists. So Michael Donaldson, as an attorney, you're very well known in the documentary world for your work on fair use, which is an area that has really expanded in, I don't know, the last 5 or 10 years? Is that fair to say as a timeline?
Certainly the culture has changed a lot. The law hasn't changed that much. But I'm wondering if we could just spend a moment talking about something that came up in both of their presentations, which are the contract language of old contracts. Like, I can't show this publicly. I think that came up with both. Our office has stepped out in front of those issues because it comes up all the time. People are always coming in with older films. They have an offer to re-release it, maybe Criterion or something, and they say, we can't afford to go back and license these things, but we think it would fall under fair use today, like Eyes on the Prize, this kind of thing.
So just to be clear, we're talking about films that have like songs in them, the way Dance Black America does, or Eyes on the Prize, which tomorrow, if you come here at noon, our conversation about clearances, we're going to have the music supervisor from Eyes on the Prize talking about some of the challenges that series had coming back.
And more about the film clips and photos and posters and all that kind of stuff. Oh, we can't use it because we signed a contract. We take a very close look at those contracts, and it's a 3-step process. First, we look and see if there's survival language. It is basic contract law that you are obligated to obey the contract for however many years you promise to obey the contract. You talked about a 7-year contract for certain things.
For music, yeah.
For 7 years, you're bound by that. So for 7 years, if you said, I'm only going to use this clip in this way, you're bound by it. You agree. After the 7 years, you're not bound by that contract anymore. The contract's over. So we reevaluate and say, okay, today the use of this photo would be considered fair use, and we write opinion letters and have gotten insurance on it.
You mean you don't have to renew a contract?
No, you never have to renew a contract.
I don't mean renew it. I mean you don't have
Just because you paid for it once.
Yeah.
No. Now, this is, if something
It's
falls
completely
within
as black and
fair
white as you're
use-
describing it. There are some nuances here, right?
Yeah. But oh yeah, this is a tricky area. Don't do this at home. But if something falls within fair use today, but your contract says, oh, you can't show up, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, the contract's over, and we take a look at it as though nobody had ever seen the film before. We take it just like a brand new film, because your contract has run out, right? They don't have any right again. You don't have it's a mutual agreement, which is over. It's like a bad marriage. It's gone.
Even if it was true.
What did I think of that? I don't know. Anyway, so that's the first thing we look at. Is there a survival clause? Sometimes a contract will say, notwithstanding the fact this is a 10-year contract, you promise never ever to use our clips again, or something like that. Paragraph 8 survives. So that's the first thing we look at, survival contract. Second thing we look at is a bump-up paragraph, very common for festival rights. Oh, festival right contracts, spare me. They say, we're going to give it to you for festivals, and then we'll negotiate reasonably for anything beyond that. And of course, your idea of negotiating reasonably and their idea of negotiating reasonably can be very, very different. So we look for those things. And the third thing we do is we go through the whole contract to make sure there isn't some language drifting around some other place that will add to your obligations beyond the term of the contract. This is a very tricky area. E&O insurance does not cover contract breaches, but we slide it in under fair use for all of that. And we've had a lot of luck. Our agreement, it is a high-risk area. No, I don't want to misrepresent that. So our deal with filmmakers, because we believe so passionately in what you were talking about here. Congratulations for bringing all these people out on a rainy Tuesday night to talk about preservation. That our deal with filmmakers is that if you get pushback, if somebody calls and yells at you, refer them to us. We will negotiate with them for free. We won't charge you, and you have to agree to pay whatever the same license fee as you paid before if they really come back. So that's that. I just wanted to cover that because it's you won't hear it from many lawyers. And in fact, when Thom, you asked to talk about it, we were kind of like, oh, I don't know how public we want to go with this, but that's what we're doing in our office. But going forward, what the people can do today is, first of all...
That's an important part of this conversation. It's not just about rescuing these old films, but making sure that the films that are being made today are going to have a survivability into the future.
Yeah.
So the first thing, and I'm passionate about this, let's talk about non-music items, and then we'll go to music. Clips, posters, photos, artwork, anything like that you would want to use, and you can't for some reason bring it under fair use, you can't get what you want without going to the license holder. Please don't agree to any license other than in perpetuity, all media, forever and ever, because if you're going to put 1, 2, 6, 8 years of your life into making a film, it's because it's important, and you've heard how important these films are, even ones that may not seem important at the time. Oh, we're doing a rope jumping film, but years later, it actually is more valuable because it gives you an insight into that period of history that isn't around now, that period of politics that doesn't exist now. So your films, unlike narrative films, have a value forever. It is a window into whatever you're making your film about. So don't sign licenses unless they're absolutely as long as they need to be, which is forever, all media. And if that's not the case...
Because, Michael, I'm sure that there's a filmmaker out there thinking like, well, Michael Donaldson, that's easy for you to say, but, I can only afford so much, and if it's, the in perpetuity price versus the 10-year license price is a big jump. I can only afford the 10-year license price. Or, I'm negotiating with, I don't know, the Elvis Presley estate, and they won't negotiate beyond 10 years.
Right. Or the Olympics,
the Olympics is a famous one.
Yeah, I mean, there are people like the Olympics who are so restricted that it's very easy to get the idea they're bullies. And what we do then is work with filmmakers to bring those uses within fair use. I don't want to get the panel hijacked off on fair use, so I brought a handout. It's the best explanation of fair use that I've ever read. I didn't write it. Two pages by an LA Times reporter on how we cleared LA Plays Itself. Let me put them up here for later. And you'd be surprised. No, just leave them there. We don't want people reading while we're...
Oh, okay. Well, Michael doesn't want you reading, so you can get them later.
Good Lord. She got hers. Very good, ma'am. Very good. Good film. Good producer. She got. Anyway, you'd be surprised at how much of your film can be fair use, and we do this time and time again. Had a filmmaker come in with Olympic footage. The Olympics didn't want to sell them any because it was about a gay figure skater. And I don't know if you knew this, but there are no gay athletes in the Olympics. Just ask Putin. It's true. It's true. And in fact, we did Gay Athletes in Russia documentary, and boy,
I didn't want to hear about
it. The point is, if you understand fair use, you can use an enormous amount of footage. Room 237, a third of that film was clips from The Shining. And every one of them used under fair use. And yes, we got a call from Warner Brothers and the estate, but we talked to them and not a penny was paid. LA Plays Itself.
Which the director, Thom Anderson, I think would want to be called Los Angeles Plays Itself, because there's a section in that film where he makes a big distinction between the use of Los Angeles and L.A.
Okay, Thom. Thom mentioned that several times to me. Los Angeles Plays Itself. That film, from beginning to end, is comprised solely of clips from other films. There's no other visual material in the film. And every inch of that film was used pursuant to fair use. You cannot be afraid of this concept. And if you read this, there's on page 2, it tells you exactly how to figure out a safe harbor. And if you take it to your lawyer and your lawyer says, oh, that can't be possible, have them email us and we'll send them a 150-page law review article I wrote that was vetted by everybody, included Justice Laval.
But you didn't Xerox that for us.
So you never want to sign those short licenses. When it comes to music is used in two ways in films. One, of course, is if you're talking about the music. And you look at a film like 20 Feet from Stardom, Foo Fighters, Troubadours, all those films came through our office. They all were loaded with fair use, and we got insurance for all of them, and never paid a penny on any one of those 3 films. Then there's music as underscore, and there it can never be fair use. If you're using music as underscore, it's it's a sync license, and if it's pure underscore, it can't be fair use. So what a lot of people like to do, if they can't get a long enough license, first of all, plan ahead so that you don't fall in love with one particular piece of music. There's always other music, and I know
filmmakers, you know what he's talking about. Any idea about this?
Yeah. I know some filmmakers, they fall in love with a particular piece of music, and then it's kind of hard. There's always other music, or you can have a composer come in and write something from the period. I would urge you not to hand them a song and say, write something that sounds like this. That's very difficult, and it's very easy to stub your toe.
Especially not a Marvin Gaye song.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, I had dinner last night with the musicologist that testified for the Gays for 4 days on the stand. A very tricky area. It's better just to go in and say, write some dance music from the 60s, and you work with a composer, but don't hand them a particular song. I think you're asking them to do the impossible. Or you can do like Escape from Tomorrow, that little black and white horror film that was shot in Disneyland. The one piece of music that had to be licensed, of course, was the music through the tunnel. And obviously we couldn't go to Disney and ask for a license on that. So the instruction to the composer was ingenious, I thought. I didn't come up with this instruction. The composer was asked to write music just a little more annoying than the actual music at Disneyland. And they succeeded. It was really annoying music. So those are my quick tips. And actually, if somebody wants to talk about fair use, I'll stay, but we don't want to hijack.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Michael Donaldson, for being here. Sandra Schulberg, you've got some slides to show us, but before we get into those, tell us what the Indie Collect project is, and I think that you're going to be describing a piece of news about Indie Collect here at the summit, and if maybe you want to get that into your slides, but I do want to get to that at some point.
Well, thank you, Thom, and again, I have to reiterate what everyone has said about the importance of this symposium that you've organized. So thank you to you, and also to Ken Jacobson and the IDA, and all of you for being here. I'm an accidental archivist, is a term that Thom used. We have to become our own archivists. This is a lesson that I've learned painfully myself. And it's really, it is like Old Home Week to be here with Barbara, who, as co-founder of the Film Fund, gave the IFP its first office in your offices, and with Penny, who when we moved uptown, we rented space from Penny, and to be here with Michael, who was on the board of the IFP for so many years we were together, which brings us to, the one thing that the IFP never grappled with, and it's sort of it's a parallel to our own lives, our own careers as filmmakers. We never focused on how do we save our own movies. That was one big thing that I tried to push for over the years. But as in our own lives, we were always just struggling with the day-to-day. And it's as true for organizations as it is for individual filmmakers. So I, very belatedly in my career and my life, I have become passionate about film preservation. And being here with Barbara and Penny and hearing the stories of the films your own films that need saving, and everyone in this room, I would bet, has a similar story. So
have a show of hands. How many people here are sitting on some footage that they're concerned about preserving? Yeah.
A lot.
Okay.
And do we all know where our negatives are, our masters are? I don't think so. You heard Barbara say she can't put her hands on, and Susan, the negative for American Dream. I mean, these are just we're hearing so many horror stories now that I've
founded Indie Collect, and we're really in the business of helping filmmakers find and archive their work. It's really harrowing, but it's also thrilling when we do find something or we do identify a negative that we really didn't know anything about. So we're embarked on this journey. We're embarked on this gigantic project, and with that, maybe we'll put on the slide. So we have, it's a hugely ambitious and some would say completely utopian goal to try to preserve the entirety of American independent cinema. I mean, that's the goal we've set for ourselves. Both nonfiction, which is, you could argue, maybe the most important work, and fiction, and also experimental films, art films. I mean, it's meant to be the entire gamut that we're trying to save. One of the huge problems we face in our field is that no one has actually defined the universe of American independent films. There's no master list or compendium that you can go to see a list of all the American independent films that have been made over the decades, or you could argue over the century. And there's very, very few of the databases that do exist use the word independent. It's not a search term. So you can't discover all the independent films, even where there is a database that might include a number of independent films. And this goes for the archives as well. They don't, with the exception of Anthology. Is anyone here from Anthology? And Apple Shop, which are sort of by definition archives of independent films. If you go to the major archives or the Library of Congress, they don't know themselves how many independent films they hold. So one of the huge challenges for us was just to try to define the field. And then there's the question of access, which Penny and Thom and Barbara have already talked about. So how do we, whether you want to charge an audience to see your film or whether you want to make it available for free, we're agnostic about that. We want the filmmakers to make their own decisions about that. But we want to help make the work accessible. I threw myself at the mercy of Darren Walker and Kara Mertis to
at the Ford Foundation.
At the Ford Foundation to explain to them the urgency of this issue. And thank goodness they gave us last year a small startup grant of $200,000, which we have to match, and we've barely started to match. And then NISCA gave us a small grant, and we've been soliciting and getting a few donations so far from grateful filmmakers like Ethan Hawke, whose work some of whose films we saved and moved to an archive, and our board member Lyda Kuth and Mike Hausman, and we sent a number of his films to the Academy Archive, and Cornelia Ravenal, the Ravenal Foundation, and others, including people giving us $25. And I'm going to come back to that pitch. Along the way, we have, I should say that we wouldn't have even been able to start this without the support of the Academy Film Archive. I actually started working on this project in 2008 when I was in the middle of trying to restore my father's film about the Nuremberg trial, and I was really learning everything I know about preservation and restoration from my colleagues at the Academy Film Archive. And we began to talk then about trying to vastly accelerate the number of independent films that are being collected, documented, and preserved. And the Academy had back in 2002 actually been allowed to come in and to do art and select some films that went to the Academy. But we brought them into, and with their leadership, we assembled a team of archivists to come in to do art, and I'll get to that whole project in a minute. So we built on this relationship with the Academy Archive, which I had developed, and then we extended the invitation to many, many other archives. I mean, the ones shown up here are just a few of the archives and also film organizations that we're now working with on this project. And to test this concept, we were lucky in that we inherited 4,000 films, and we're going to hand out a leaflet that some of you may have already seen, but this is just one shot of the Duart vaults. Irwin Young likes to call it the penthouse. It's really the attic. And when we started on this project, there were about 60,000 cans up there.
And just a brief primer, probably a lot of people in this room know what Duart is, but maybe some don't. So Duart was one of the key labs that independent filmmakers shooting in film were going to in the 70s through the 90s, and I don't know what their whole span was, but when you look at the roster, when you think about New York independent film, and you think about the films that won acclaim at Sundance and other festivals like that, so many of them went through Duart Labs, and then Duart Labs finally a few years ago shut down its film processing business because film processing isn't much of a business anymore, and that was kind of brought about this moment that you're talking about, where they needed to unload these thousands of films and that they've been storing for years and years.
Exactly. I mean, Duart was founded in 1922, and as many of you know, it was the preeminent film lab for indies, and many of us, I included, went for years without being able to pay certain bills to Irwin, and he allowed us to do that in order to help us make our movies. So in 2010, the situation became very urgent when the film processing division was shut down. And gradually, Irwin allowed Indie Collect to essentially take control of the thousands of films that people had left at Duart, thinking either that it was going to be there forever, or having absolutely forgotten that they had their materials there, or having died. I mean, we've got many of those sad stories too. So we created, and here I'm going to introduce a few members of our team. I don't know where, I see Pamela Visner over there, who's our archivist. Israel Erzman is somewhere here, if he would stand up.
Israel in the back will be joining us on a panel tomorrow.
And Steve Blakely, who's here. Steve Blakely, and Kirsten Larvik is right here, I see. So we created a team of people to create this, what we call the Indie Collect Index, which Israel is going to, and this is maybe the bit of news that Thom was talking about, we're going to unveil the index for the first time publicly tomorrow at 2 p.m. and really walk you through this unique database that we've created, which has since been peopled with all of Penny and Chris's films and all of Barbara's films, and many, I hope, of the filmmakers in this room, you may find your films already in the index.
One important thing about the index that we'll talk more about tomorrow is that you're looking for filmmakers. Soon filmmakers will be able to go online and enter their own films in the index, which Israel will be talking through tomorrow, so that it's not just about you indexing these films, it's about people contributing.
Yes, we eventually want it to be crowdsourced, but we've got a long way to go before we can get to that point. But Israel will be making some news tomorrow about our first beta test, inviting filmmakers inside the system for the first time. So I wanted to keep going here with these are a few of our lab test partners. You see Brian Drischel and Ed Carter from the Academy Film Archive at the left, Ron Magliosi from MoMA, Steve Blakely, whom I just introduced you to, and that's Deb Stoiber and Anthony Labate from the George Eastman House. And if you go to the next, here you see we've invited so many people, and I see a lot of people in this room who came into the stacks to help us identify. Here's Wendy Keyes from the Film Society, Andy Lampert from Anthology, Katie Traynor from MoMA, Larry Kardish, Richard Pena, and Steve again, trading notes on what they had found. So far, you want to go to the next? So far, we're very, it's only been about 8 months. We're very proud of the fact that we've managed to index about 7,000 motion pictures, indie motion pictures. Of those, about 4,000 were actually in our own vault. 22,000 about we documented that are in the so-called Sundance collection at UCLA, and there are about, by the way, another 5,500 or so Sundance titles that we still have to import just to try to get up to speed, not to mention the 14,000 or 9,000 films, feature film submissions they had, not counting the shorts this year. So we got to get through the backlog to try to get up to the present, and that's a big, big backlog. We did collection assessment. We inventoried all 716 films that Warrington Hudlin had assembled, founder of the Black Filmmaker Foundation. We integrated all 100 of the films that Susan Lazarus and Kirsten, as founders of the Women Film Preservation Fund, have restored, and are very proud to have them as partners in this whole project. And about another 150 films. Of the 3,900 films that we held at DuArt that we've now sort of taken possession of, about 1,300 we've sent to various archives, and I'll go a little further into detail about. Around 1,100 filmmakers actually wanted back, and we returned them to the filmmakers where we knew who the filmmaker was, and we were able to get in touch, and they responded to the emails or calls, because a lot of people haven't responded. Some of those filmmakers, by the way, have since asked us to take the films back and archive them, which is a little frustrating, but that's great. That's great. And then there are about 1,600, which I don't know how many thousands of cans it is, but about 1,600 titles that are still in the vaults and that need homes. And that's the job we're facing over the next 6 months, is to find homes for all that material. So the next slide, you'll see, just if you're interested, where of the films that we've archived or facilitated, they're going to the archives. You can see that nearly half have gone to the Academy Film Archive, and they have been just wonderfully receptive. We're sending more and more to the UCLA Film and TV Archive because they really want, at first they only wanted Sundance titles, but now they're interested in taking the entire of a filmmaker who might have had one of his or her films shown at Sundance. So that opens up a lot more possibilities for archiving the film. So with Rob Nielsen, for instance, we're just in the process of sending like 30 of his films to UCLA because one of his films, Heat and Sunlight, won the grand prize at Sundance. So a few years ago, they would only have been interested in that one film, but now they understand the urgency of this, and they're taking more and more of a broader reach for each filmmaker. Anthology right here in New York, they are absolutely wonderful. And we're sending, we hope, more and more to the Library of Congress. And then you can see, altogether it's like 45 different archives that we have been. And here you see Ed Carter. I call this the treasure hunt. Just sitting and looking at every can. Sometimes we have to open the can. The films were never inventoried by the filmmaker's name or by the title of the film. It was all about who was paying the bill. And as you know, as we know, as filmmakers, we tend to set up a special purpose company for each film that we make, and then we kill that company when the film is finished. So what DuArt had essentially was the records for thousands of single-purpose corporations that don't exist anymore. And that's what made it so challenging, first for Steve Blakely, and then as we began to work on this with him, for all of us. So walking people through the vaults and looking at the can and recognizing a name. I mean, I know I see people in this room who did that with us, and it continues. You know, where do we go from here? I mean, in terms of finding a home for everything that's still at DuArt, I often feel like a cigarette girl, you know, with this tray. And we're all trying to make the work look as appealing as possible. But much of it is mysterious. Many of the films may never have been released before. We found one tragic story that was featured in the New York Times was the story of Cane River, this feature film where the filmmaker died of a heart attack at age 42. This probably marvelous film set in New Orleans, where the people who'd put up the money, didn't want him to make the deal he wanted to make to release the film, and he whether that triggered his heart attack or whether that was coincidence, we'll never know. But that film is just one of the many mystery titles that are there in the vaults, and. So we have to find homes not only for all the material that remains at DuArt, but for all of your material, all you people in this room, all of us who need archival homes, a storage facility that you're not going to have to pay for. That's our goal for every film. Then we have, Then we have the digitization and access mandate. I mean, whether the film is a negative and was never, there was never a digital master created, or whether there was a digital or video master made that is now antiquated, many filmmakers are in this position. And if you go to the commercial houses that are in the business of doing this work, it's often beyond the means of all of us. So we are trying to raise the money now to buy, actually you mentioned Jeff Kreines, Penny, Jeff is the Canetta.
He's trying to wake up all these sleeping beauties.
Exactly. And we believe they are sleeping beauties. So we're trying to raise the money to acquire this scanner so we can provide nonprofit digital scans of 35 and 16 millimeter films, negative or prints if it has to be prints, and other equipment to do transfers from antiquated video formats. How many of you in this room need this, by the way? I'd like to see a show of hands. Okay, so I'm saying take a chit, and by take a chit, I mean sign up at IndieCollect and let us know you need this, because if we can prove that a lot of people need it, and it's not just me saying so, it's going to be a lot easier for us to raise the money. And the idea is to do it, for free for some people. Some people say, we have $3,000. They can't get it done for $3,000, but we could do it for that. So it's going to be, I hope, a kind of pay-as-you-can basis. But we really need to hear from you. A lot of people are worried about digital storage. We have started discussions with the Library of Congress, which has huge digital storage capacity, to be the preferred digital storage, I don't know if we call it location, unit, facility, let's say, facility for indie films, and have your film, perfect your copyright at the same time. I know I never had the money to have an extra print that I could send to the Library of Congress. You should see when we went down there, the studios, every week a new batch of films comes. They all have their prints, 35, even 70 millimeter prints go there the minute they're ready for release, and they have their films stored there, archivally stored, and they perfect their copyright at the same time, and they register their movies there. We don't do that as independents, and we need to do that. You can see the next slide. So, where do we go from here? Well, Preservation Now. I know I sound like a broken record, but we are really, really pushing. It seems like every other week somebody that I know is leaving the planet, and I worry about who's there to take over control of the films. And I know another problem. Many people have films in commercial storage units, and we know people who can't afford, or they forgot to pay the bill, and suddenly their work has been held hostage or it was gotten rid of. It's really not a good idea to.
Yeah, they call it landfill.
Yeah, exactly. So this is only a temporary solution for you to be paying to have your work stored in a commercial storage unit. We really have to move it out to archives where you won't have to pay the bill, but where you can still get access to the material as you need it. And then, the legacy. I guess I'm in this business now because I'm so aware of my own mortality. And I really hope we can create these, what I call these legacy agreements, whereby you don't donate your films to the archives. You keep them there on deposit, but the minute you die, that converts to a donation agreement so that your heirs, if you have any, don't have to worry about what to do with your films. They're already protected. That's what we have to get to this point. We have to pay attention to this. You have to take it, from the bottom of your to-do list and put it at the top of your to-do list. The digital dilemma, that's our next. Now tomorrow is going to be a very important panel with Alison Berg, who's here, who made the dog. It took her so long to make the film that she had to develop these, as is true for many dogs. We all know this. You had to develop a whole raft of protocols for saving work over a 10-year period of time. So tomorrow you can hear her talk about what she did, what she learned along the way, and what she recommends. And also David Leitner, who's on the cutting edge. He's our tech guru at Indie Collect, so that we can figure out what the best practices are. And as I said, I hope we can work with the Library of Congress to digitally store the material. And the next, so this is my mantra. This happens to have been put in a very important report that was created for the Library of Congress by David Pierce, who's highly respected in our field. I'm now calling it our field of archival preservation. Listen to me. I'm just an errant producer like all of you, but an accidental archivist. So he says it is impossible to determine in advance which films will stand the test of time as art or which will prove significant as a social record. And what Penny and Barbara have said about this is so true. So we're determined to make the case that more of the archives preserve more indie films because they are under tremendous pressure from all sides. There's none of them except for Anthology and Appleshop are specifically mandated to preserve indie films. So we really have to fight to have our work, to make sure our work gets a place in these, somewhat rarefied archives. We're asking you to let us help you. We're asking you to sign up to register your films. There's a Google form that you're going to be able to, or I think we already have it on the website, actually. Israel, is that right? Yeah. We have I'm sorry to be so inarticulate about this. Go to the website, indiecollect.org. Sign up. There's a form on that website, a Google form that you can fill out to give us the name or names of your films and give us another bunch of information. And then we will start to be able to absorb many, many more films into the index. And it's only by fully populating the index that will, one, be able to document the entire field, and two, be able to make a stronger and stronger case for archiving more and more of the work and digitizing it and making it accessible on your terms. That's the point, on our terms, not on the terms of whoever may be in charge of access to your film now. And as I said, get a digitization chit. So finally, I'm starting to be a little redundant here. Join the campaign. Yes, that means sign up. Like us on Facebook. It sounds so silly, but I'm told it's really important. Follow us on Twitter. We got our Twitter handle today for the first time. And okay, donate. So listen, we've done all this so far with about $100,000. This team of people is working for very little money. And we're going to be, I shouldn't probably say this, but we're going to be out of money in about another 6 months. So whether you have $25 to donate or $25,000 to donate, we really need help. We're going to have to do all this together. This is a job that we can't do alone. We all have to focus on this, either by helping either by helping yourself. You don't have to help your fellow filmmaker. Just help yourself. If you help yourself, you'll be helping all of us. And we can help you help all of us. We're at the moment, I would say, helping 2 or 3 filmmakers a week. Besides indexing all these films, which is kind of a mass production process, we're also helping individual filmmakers each week find an archive for his or her work. So don't hesitate to write us a personal note, which Steve's and my email is on this sheet that we're going to hand out. So you can contact us through the website, but don't be shy about just writing to us personally. I mean, of course, the day will come when we may not be able
You'll
to
get an auto reply.
answer you, but we'll maybe an auto reply. I hope never an auto reply.
Well, Sandra, I want to thank you and your team for this incredible project. So.
Thank
you. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of detail, but it's important detail, as we know, because these things are all about the details.
It's also about hope.
And it's about hope, and I think it's about the power that comes when people start putting the word out and getting together. Because
we have to organize. I mean, that's really the message. We have to organize. This has got to become a movement. It can't just be one at a time. It has to be a movement. And talk is cheap. We have to actually do something. We have to press. You have to give us the data, and we use that to press for access, and we get you access, and we can do it together. I really do think we can.
So this is the beginning of a conversation. There's a lot more to be had in this conversation tomorrow, starting at 10:30 in the morning here. The first panel of the day is called Earning New Revenue Off Old Films, because a big part of this conversation is how can we earn some money to make this pay for itself. Please pick up a schedule outside or go to docnyc.net or ifccenter.com. If you want to check out the full day's events tomorrow. Hope you see a lot of you come back tomorrow. Thank you very much for being here, and thanks especially to our panelists, Sandra Schulberg, Michael Donaldson, Barbara Kopple, and D.A. Pennebaker.